you guys. Alright, so this video will be a relatively short one. We are just jumping back to review decomposition of functions before we cover chain rule next week. Alright, so when we're decomposing functions, we're given some function, and we're just trying to identify two functions that, if they were composed, so one function inside of another function, would give us the function we were given. Okay? So there's a couple different ways we might see these or be able to recognize these. And so the first one is if there's a function under some power. Okay, so in this one we can see, all right, I've got some function here, x to the third minus 1, that's underneath a power of 2. Okay, so my inside function is going to be what's under the power. So we'll say f of g is equal to x squared minus 1, and h of x is equal to x squared. Okay, so we've got our f of x is equal to our inside function, and our h of x is our outside function. You can see that if we were to do h of f, here, let's do this. If we were to do h of f of x, okay, that would give us our function y of x, which is what decomposing is. We're just breaking it, we're undoing function composition. Okay, if you remember when we talked about function composition, I think earlier in the semester. All right, so the first way we did was a function under some power. The other way, or the other thing you might see is an argument of a trig function. Okay, so we'll have a trig function, and on the inside of our trig function is some other function. Okay, so the inside of that trig function, or inside of our trig function, that argument, is a function in and of itself. So that'll be our inside function. So we'll say f of x is equal to 3x. And our second function is just sine of x. Okay. Next way you might see these will be the functional power of an exponent. Okay, so if we have some exponential function where the power is a function itself. So that'll be our inside function, and the exponential function, or the power function, is our outside function. Okay, so we'll say f of x is equal to 3x plus 1, and our h of x is equal to e to the x. Okay. Something to remember is that wherever you're putting the x in your outer function, okay, that's where your f of x would go. So it's one way to kind of think about it. And then you might see some other combinations. So you could have a composition, or you could have a decomposition that would decompose into more than two functions. It could, in this case, this one will decompose into 3. We can see we've got a trig function, and our argument inside of it is a function, and then that trig function is also raised to a power. Okay, so we've got 3 different kinds. We'll have one of our functions will be f of x, which is be equal to 2 of x, okay, which is inside of our trig function. Okay, then we'll say h of x is equal to tan of x, okay, and then lastly, our third function, we'll name that g of x, and that'll be x cubed. Okay. So we can see if we were to do g of h of f of x, okay, that would give us our y function. Alright, so that wasn't too bad. Just a quick review before our last section of the semester, which will be chain rule.